It is 6 o'clock. Of course, my Surface says it's 5:57, but everything else says 6 o'clock. So that's just technology for you. All right. Welcome to the December 2022 Mayor and Council meeting for the city of Villa Rica, Georgia. I am your Mayor Pro Tem. Our illustrious mayor is out of town this week. So you have to deal with me for the next 30 to 45 minutes. At least, hopefully, it only takes that long. So, we're going to start off with our invocation, and I want to welcome Pastor Chad Williams. And then our Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Villa Rica's own Officer Chase Gordy. And if... Is the pastor not here yet? No? Okay. Shirley, would you like to give her invocation?
Gracious Father, we come this evening with bowed heads and on our hearts, thanking you for another day. We thank you, Lord, that you allowed us to meet here this evening to conduct business for the city. And we hope that you would guide our minds, that we would do what's best for the city, not just individuals, but and it would be pleasing to you, Lord. We know we can't solve everybody's problems, but we do the best we can. Or as long as it's pleasing to you, we're okay. We ask that you would continue to bless us. We're in the Christmas season, but Lord, we know the real reason for the season. We ask blessings upon each individual here, all the departments head, all that makes up this city government. We pray that you would just be with us, keep us in your care. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I'm going to ask Officer Chase Gordy to please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Officer Gordy has been with the Villa Rica Police Department coming up on 3 years. He currently works night shift as patrol officer and continues to love every aspect of the job. Serving with integrity continues to be his primary goal while serving with the city of Villa Rica. To add to this, Officer Gordy plans on getting married to his fiancée Peyton in February. Congratulations, officer. And of course, we all know Officer Gordy involved in the horrendous event that occurred in April of, was it 21 now? Or was it 20? Okay. It's hard to believe it's been that long already. So, Officer Gordy, thank you for your service to our community. All right. So, next item of business would be ceremonial presentations. And I'm not as cool as Gil, so I'm not going to sign Mr. Jim Chambers' certificate here. We'll let the mayor do that. But, Tom, do you want to say anything about? Sarah is. Okay.
5 long years. I prepared a speech, but I'll try to limit it. So Jim started as the city's first in-house IT director back in December of 2017. And the city had previously contracted that out. So Jim was our first in-house IT director. But when he came, that meant we didn't have a spot for him. So I was the finance director at the time. Jim got a desk in the finance department with 4 ladies. And after a while, he decided he needed his peace and quiet. So he moved into the breaker closet in the finance department for maybe a year till the mold was discovered. Then he decided he found his own place, set up an office suite at the old library till that was needed for something else. And now he's finally landed at the office he is at. Jim stepped into a mess, and he has worked very hard to improve our network, our hardware, and our security. I'm not allowed to talk much about that. But Jim's not your typical IT guy. We can always count on him to lighten the mood in our meetings. He loves to talk sports. He was our only New York Giants fan until we added Lena to the ranks. Yeah. No Cowboys. But anyway, we just appreciate all that you've done, Jim. For his 5 years, I've always said, Jim, you're a Jim, as in GEM. And we appreciate all that you've done. Congratulations on 5 years.
Okay.
Jim's reward for 5 years is he gets to work for Sarah instead of me.
Congratulations, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, I guess the mayor will sign this. We'll see what that. Okay, and the next ceremonial presentation we have will be a presentation by the Lions Club to the Villa Rica Police Department for their donation to Shop with a Cop. And so I'm going to put my other hat on. I'm the Lions Club president also for the Villa Rica. And I see we have the immediate past president and county commissioner Clint Chance here as well. So, and Captain Shaddix will join us.
Small room, I can talk through that. So we are doing our Shop with a Cop Friday, and right now, as it stands right now, it's subject to change. We have 94 children that are joining us at Walmart Friday morning, and we'll take them shopping for Christmas. Tomorrow, we're actually delivering presents to 100 senior citizens. I don't know. How about now? Is that better?
Yep.
So tomorrow we're actually doing a. I'm sorry, sir. Start over. So we are doing presents for 94 children. You've lost me. So tomorrow we're actually doing presents for 100 senior citizens that we're going to deliver tomorrow. We've done a good job. It's been some late fundraising, last minute, but we have God's been good, and we've got the funds to make this all happen. So thank you very much, sir, for the Lions Club. Those contributions are just, I can't speak how much they mean to me.
Well, on behalf of the Lions Club, I'll say you're welcome. It's a group effort, team effort, and we always love doing it every year. So, unfortunately, I couldn't get more of my members here this evening. It is kind of getting late in the Christmas season, and folks, but I was glad that Commissioner Chance was able to be with us. Mr. Mecklin, I guess, took the night off since we have such a light of agenda, so he took advantage of that too. So, but thank you again, Captain. You're very welcome as well. Appreciate it for everything you do in the community and for that program that you continuously steward every year. And speaking of Commissioner Chance, again, I recognize him in attendance this evening, and our school board member, Dr. Bernice Brooks, is also in attendance. So thank you both for coming out and engaging in the various different avenues of local government that you in addition to your daily roles representing, you also engage in your other parts. I appreciate that. Or the city appreciates that, I should say. All right, so we're going to adopt the agenda. Do I have any amendments to the
Yes,
agenda?
Mr.
being
Mayor Pro
presented?
Tem.
Yes, Councilman Carter.
I'll move to table items B1 and B2 to the January 2023 meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second for adopting the agenda with Councilman Carter's motion to table items B1 and B2 to
Second.
the January meeting? Okay. Councilwoman McPherson seconded. All in favor? Did we ever find out whether I can vote on this? I can't remember. Tom, I can?
left to do?
Okay, I can vote.
Yeah, you got the
All
consent
right.
agenda.
I'm still a council member.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we're going to turn it over now with the agenda adopted. We're going to turn it over to public comment. Ms. Campbell. All right. So first, I'm going to recognize those on the list, and then we will ask if anyone else wants to make a comment. And our first person is Dr. Bernice Brooks. So I will remind all of our public commenters that please keep your comments on a professional level. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. If you deviate from this protocol, you will receive a warning from the chair. If you deviate a second time, you will be asked to leave the premises for the evening. Only one person speaking at a time, and please no comments from the audience. And then each speaker also is allotted 3 minutes. So, Dr. Brooks?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I am Dr. Bernice Brooks. I live 130 Red Branch, Villa Rica. I stand to share a situation and to provide some legal information. On December 9th, 2022, the Code Appliance Officer picked up signs, that's campaign signs, on Thomas Dorsey Drive. I stopped him and asked him why. He stated that a council member had complained. I stated we have 30 days to pick up signs. I asked for them. He refused to put them in my hand, put them in the vehicle, and drove off. Let me give you the legal part of this. The law gives us 15 days to remove signs. These signs were on private property, the Masonic Hall, and the Mount Prospect Cemetery. And if they are on private property, they can stay there indefinitely. So again, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr.
My ward,
Brooks.
but it wasn't me.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks. So our next public commenter is David Haladic.
I know. The guy sits in that chair for 2 years, he finally gets up and he drags a box across the floor. Who in the hell is he, right? Well, my name is David Laddick, and I live at 9783 Reflections Drive in Mirror Lake. And what I'm going to do is give a slight talk on, as you can see, the Villa Rica Police Citizens Academy. When I told the chief I wanted to talk a little bit on that, he says, well, since we have a lot of time today, is it possible you could give some profile and maybe notes on my career as a Villa Rica chief? So he gave me some of his notes on what he wanted me to talk about. So, all this time and I got less than 2 minutes. Chief, I'm sorry. Perhaps write a book on how and why I became chief of Villa Rica, Volume 1. All right. Talking about the Villa Rica Police Academy. My wife wanted me to get involved with this mainly because she was interested. I was not. I was a military police person 60 years ago, and I thought what could possibly change in 60 years. But we looked over the agenda, and it was going to be 2 hours a week for 10 weeks, and they were going to serve food. So I thought that's a plus. So I started to come to the meetings. My wife said, I want to be involved in this because I want to know what's going on in the community. Now, how would you like to be shot, drive under the influence, shoot a weapon, go to jail, investigate a dummy who was shot 3 times? You can get on the Villa Rica Citizens Academy and you will be involved with that. What I said was not true, but not real. But we learned that in the program. And the program was very, very interesting. I couldn't believe, they give you a book too, I couldn't believe in that time frame all the things that the police would need to know. And the main purpose I got out of this was the fact that this puts you in the policeman's shoes to what they have to go through to protect us in our own community. What split-second decisions they need to make and what should they do, with everybody basically looking at them through their iPhones, cameras and whatever, and making sure what they did was right, then have to explain it after they did their job. Most of the programming involved the laws that they had to go through. We went through sketching, we went through criminal investigation, we went to the jail, we got bread and water there, and we went to 9/11 to look at how they did their job, and I was amazed with the technology that they have right now in the program that they're working with. We then went to vehicle pullovers, and then we went through a full graduation in which we received our certificate of graduation. So I have come full board in my life with the fact I was a military police, special forces in Vietnam, and now I am Citizens Police Chief. I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, and our last speaker on our list is Mr. I believe it's Nate Hare. Mr. Hare is here to represent Villa Rica Ward 2 this evening.
Good evening to the councilman and to all those that's in attendance. My name is L. Nathan Hare. I live in Twin Oaks Subdivision, 636 Nine Oaks Circle. I have 2 complaints. One, at the corner of South Carroll and Tolbert, there is right in front of the Social Security building. The people have to turn off South Carroll onto Tolbert. They worked on this little turn right there about 3 or 4 different times, over a period of about 3 or 4 years. There's a big hole there, fills with water. Everybody got to turn, they got to turn way out in the lane and block the other traffic that's coming down Tolbert. It's going to be a serious accident and it's going to block up everything. If they don't put some knowledgeable people there to fix that, not just fill it with sand, but fix it properly. And then there's another spot up by I think it's the elementary school, on Maple and South Dogwood. Right at the corner, if you come down to the corner, Maple and South Dogwood, if you're not paying attention, you will run into a storm drain situation, and it's very, very deep. And there's nothing to block you from going off in there, because you see grass, but then if you turn your tire a little bit too much, you'll run off the road, and you'll drop about 3 or 4 feet. And that's a serious situation. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. All right. Do we have anyone else in attendance who would like to give public comment? Yes, sir. If you could just come forward and state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Mr. Perez, and my address is 605 South Doga.
Okay, go ahead.
And we here to present you a corruption and also a police report we made. And we want to answer also this is my survey. And here is the code in situation.
Okay. Make sure you're at the microphone so people can hear you, okay?
They can hear me.
Well, no, on the camera on TV. People are watching on television.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. This not being secure here, we can go television.
No, I mean, we're live streaming this now,
Yeah.
so people cannot hear you if you're not on the microphone, okay?
Okay, well, in
Okay.
case now, but more people can hear me.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, this case, we call, on the October the 22nd. We call dispatcher to file a police report against Danny Carter as no a surveyor, a licensed surveyor. He come and move my property, corner monument. And you read the code in there, it's illegal with no licensed person.
Okay, so this is a matter, then I'm not going to let you go forward on this matter because this matter is an attack on an individual, it sounds like.
I'll
okay?
try to talk to you guys in your office right there in the city hall, and you don't pay me attention. You deny my meeting in there.
You said that he needed
You-
to come here
you-
to the main meeting.
Your secretaries tell me come into public, and that's the
Okay.
reason I'm here in public.
And the biggest thing is it shows that it's a
Hold
criminal
on one moment, I'm sorry. Let's pause their time. I know they have limited time left while this train goes by, okay? Okay. Again, I really am hesitant to let this discussion go forward since it sounds like this is attacking an individual and it's not about a general
No,
issue in the
I'm not
city.
attacking it. I'm defending. I'm defending my property. I'm defending my stuff.
Sure, but I don't.
And him as a public member, this need to be public because you guys know answer when I request my meeting in the office.
Okay, we have
And it
44 seconds left, so just.
But it does show that it's, it's a criminal offense on here.
It's a
if you
criminal
look.
Okay.
offense, and also had the 609 next to me. They can, Mr.
I'm
Carter
just-
living a few miles away. Why him got the balls? Sorry, my language. Sorry, to come in and move the property corner monument, and also
Here.
in that property they throw some great water to a live creek.
I'm just wondering, so can anybody just go remove somebody's property pin or property monument that they have spent, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 to have a licensed land surveyor?
All right, so so obviously we're not the police department, and we don't respond to requests, like I didn't respond to the
So,
previous
okay,
commenters.
last question then. So a
It's not, we're not
commissioner
doing
that
a
does
question and
criminal
answer
offense
session.
gets
We're not doing
allowed
a
to be-
question and
Okay,
answer session.
that mean him is a
So I'm gonna
popular-
ask Officer, thank you, Captain, Lieutenant, thank you.
Okay. That's all there is.
Thank you. No, we
Thank
can
you.
sit down. We can hear everything. No? All right, thanks. Take care. Have a good night. Merry Christmas. Hey, you're not kicking me out. Why are you kicking me out?
All right, any other public commenters? Gil sure picked a good meeting to miss, didn't he? All right, let's move forward with our agenda this evening. All right, so we're going to have council updates. Did any council members want to have an update this evening? Councilwoman McPherson.
Other than Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy Hanukkah on the 19th, that starts on the 19th, to our Jewish neighbors and friends. I want to address just the campaign sign issue real quick, since that came up. I did not complain. However, I did call code enforcement and ask, would we be picking up the campaign signs on the right of way? Because I was out, and I actually have a lady I know who had some campaign signs, and I picked them up for her. I texted her and said, would you like your campaign signs back? Because sometimes they have people put them out for them, and they don't even know where all they are. And there were some signs that were out that weren't even in the runoff. So they were signs from the original election in November. And so I went ahead and picked up the ones for the lady I knew, put them at my house, told her I'd have them. But I did ask code enforcement, would we be picking up the ones on the right of way? Because to be honest, people stick them in there, and a lot of times they never come back and get them. Then the wind's blowing, then they're on the ground, then the mowers are trying to go around them, and they become basically litter. And so it wasn't a matter of timing. I think we probably may need to check into if they're allowed, how long they're allowed to stay. I'm not aware of that particular one. I think we should give people a certain amount of time to come out and get their signs. But the good thing is, usually, because I've had it happen to me, usually code enforcement will have them in the building, and if anybody's looking for their signs, they're usually available to pick up. But I just wanted to clarify that. But we probably should check with code enforcement and if there's some sort of restriction on the number of days. I always had mine up within 5 days, so I don't know. I don't know that you can, on private property, it's a different story. Different story. I don't think we can't go on private property. At least, we're not supposed to.
Any other council members want to provide council updates? No. Okay. All right. So hearing none, we will move forward with the consent agenda. And somebody let me know if I have this mistaken. Item 1 on the consent agenda is a 2023 contract for the municipal judge. Item 2 is a 2023 city holiday schedule. Item 3 is a end of year incentive pay. Item 4 was the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Carrollton for mental health crisis unit. Item 5 was purchase and implement a TI Recon simulator. Item 6, development, launch, and utilization of VRPD-specific mobile application for cell phone users. Item 7, North Candler Street and West Gordon Street storm drainage improvements and stream restoration engineering design. Item 8, auction of 2 city vehicles on govdeals.com. Item 9, Georgia Department of Natural Resources proposed compliance order. Item 10, purchase of water samplers for the wastewater treatment facilities. Item 11, Cowan Lake raw water pump station improvements. Item 12, Northeast Downtown Water Line Replacement Phase 1. Item 13, North Plant Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition Upgrade. Item 14, replacement of the storage nitrification reactor volute. Item 15, approval of the updated resolution with Synovus regarding authorized signatures for the city's bank accounts. Item 16, adopt a resolution authorizing an investment account with Synovus Trust Company and adopt an investment policy. Item 17, fiscal year 2023 budget amendments 1 through 12. Item 18, development of city branding and logo. Item 19, to engage Single Point to assist with land acquisition. Item 20, Carroll County FEMA support letter. Did I miss anything, council? Okay, very good. So those items were all discussed at length at this morning's work session, and with approval this evening, they would all be unanimously approved. So do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So move to adopt the consent agenda.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilman Carter and a second from Councilwoman Marchman. All in favor? Okay, that it is unanimous. All right, we have tabled items B1 and B2 to the January meeting. So that leaves our next item as the financial update with Finance Director Jennifer Hallman.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I ask a question? I know we've tabled those 2 items, and one of them is the reapportionment of the council wards. Mr. Barber, any ideas on, since Mr. Mecklin isn't here, any ideas on how we should work together since we won't be meeting, if we're wanting to tweak those maps at all, should we just individually talk to one another? Handle it that way before January? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. You're welcome.
All right.
Ms. Hallman?
Good evening. This is a financial update as of the first month of our new fiscal year, 2023, which is October. In October, there's a lot of transactions that are occurring, but because it's the first month of the new fiscal year, there's a lot of accruals that are happening, both expenditures and revenues that we are accruing to the prior year. So keep that in mind when you see some of the revenues and expenditures. The cash, we'll start with that. At the end of October of this year, we had $31.4 million in total cash, with $6.7 million in the general fund, just over $5 million in the water sewer, $178,000 in the sanitation solid waste. The new account that was created, the Mirror Lake Connector / Fuquay Development Agreement, the $7.2 million. And then you have the 2015 Carroll Splost at $714,000, the 2016 Douglas Splost, a little over $3 million, and the 2021 Carroll Splost at $6.2 million. As far as our residential permits and taps, through the month of October, we've had 3 building permits, 26 water taps, and 25 sewer taps. Compared to last year, it's as far as water and sewer taps, it's about double. Pine Mountain Gold Museum, in the month of October, they had the Ghost Train. They sold 3,238 tickets with revenue generating of just over $42,000. This was a little bit of a decrease compared to last year. They had sold around 3,800 tickets and had revenue of about $49,500. The business activity, the Water and Sewer Fund, is an enterprise fund. Through the month of October, we had $926,000 in revenue, and our total expenses were $842,000. So right now, our revenues exceed our expenditures by $83,000. Primarily, I think last year we had more maintenance items in the sewer expenses than we have in the first month of this year. Sanitation and solid waste, we've collected about $132,000 in revenue and have about that amount in expenses, a little under that, $131,000. So we're almost at break even for the first month. Our self-funded insurance, again, for the month of October, the contributions, both the employer and employee contributions, totaled $192,514. Our administration fees, as well as our claims that have been paid, was $106,000. So for the month of October, we had $85,000 in savings, and cash in that account is $1,268,214. That is the end.
Okay. All right. Council, any questions for Ms. Hallman? Okay.
Okay, on the self-funded insurance, that number you're showing us is before we take the money out for,
Correct.
okay, incentive pay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Mr. Barber, City Manager's Report. Thank you, sir.
Well, as you know, the mayor's been out of town for a few days. And I've also mentioned to several of you that email traffic is down since the Thanksgiving holiday. And so I have been working to update the capital improvement plan that we have talked about but never formally adopted. when I did it the first time, and I don't remember if that was 3 years ago or when exactly, I didn't look back, but it was pretty easy to put together a project list of about $125 million. When I work on it this time, I'm at 175, and it has made me ask a couple of questions about how to move forward because we simply cannot handle that. So I have made a list of projects and categorized them, and then looked at a bunch of our history to try to get a better idea of what our next step is. So the first category that I've assembled are projects that we're either mandated to do, like the utility relocation for the roundabouts at the North Bypass, or projects that we've already started or that we're somehow obligated to perform. And that's about 10% of the list in dollar value. There are a lot of projects that are sort of floating in the air, notably the roads in the east side TAD, and several lift station projects. But we've also talked about a city hall. We've talked about building something on the site where Butterballs was located. I mean, we've talked about just any number of other capital projects. We've also started working on other sort of, I group them sort of as downtown projects. So the alleyway project, the LCI grant application, we've started talking to the railroad about quiet zones, which is a modification that allows them to go through a crossing without using the horn. Anyway, we could go on and on with that. But anyway, so we've got this big list, and it's more than we can handle. And so how do we cull it down, and what are our options? What do we have at our disposal to pursue such an ambitious list of projects? So on the general fund side, the place where we have the most control over our revenue is the digest and the millage rate. On the water and sewer side, the place where we have the most control would be the number of customers that we have in our water and sewer rates. And when we look at sort of where we've been, this is the first page of the handout that I gave you. This is water and sewer rates going back to just before I got here. And you can see that we have made some progress in bringing the first tier of rates up toward where we're eventually trying to get to. The reason that we sort of have a target in mind is we know now from having talked to Carroll County Water and Douglas County Water that we're probably going to pay somewhere around $3.80 a thousand in the next contract. And as I've told y'all several times, it doesn't work for us to have a water tier where we sell water for less than we pay for it. But that's where we've lived all these years. And so we've got it up to 366. The next rate increase is going to move us, even closer to the goal. But this will give you an idea of our structure and how we've gotten to where we are today. You can see there that we've only changed the base rate once, but we've actually changed it a second time in the sense that in the old days, the base fee included the first the first 1,000 gallons of consumption. And we took that out in the December of 16 rate change. So now the base fee doesn't give you credit toward any water volume, and you pay the first tier from the first gallon instead of getting 1,000 gallons in the base. So that's that first handout. The second one is more just a conceptual presentation of what debt is going to be like. And so what I've done is I've shown you here for different terms of debt, at what point does the interest rate cause the payback to be twice the amount borrowed. And the point of this is that if we borrow money for 10 years or 15 years or even 20 years, it's more economical in a sense. But when we get up around 25 or 30-year debt with the current interest rates, we very easily will pay back twice what we borrow, right? Which is why people work toward 15-year home mortgages instead of 30, because a 30-year 5.25% loan, which is below market right now, is a 100% interest expense on top of your principal payment. So if you borrow $100,000 for 30 years at 5.25%, you pay back $200 over the life of the loan. So I say that to y'all to say that before we borrow money for 30 years at the current rates, we better really, really, really want whatever we're buying, because we're going to pay twice or more over time for whatever that is. And the principle that we're going to have to deal with here is time is on our side if we're saving money to make a cash purchase for something. Time is not on our side if we're borrowing it at 6% or higher. And that's where we're headed, because that's the rates right now. So if we were to go today and issue revenue bonds to build, let's say, a new water plant, if that plant costs $25 million, over the life of that loan, we're going to pay $50 million. And that is a lot of money when you have a $15 million general fund or a $10 million water and sewer fund. So just so we have some context, so that when we start talking about this, we keep in mind that there's a point of diminishing economic benefit when we get past a 20-year debt. And the other side of that is there's a tremendous restriction on us if we limit our debt term to 10 years or 15 years. You just can't borrow as much, right? Because we don't have the cash to make the payment, which gets bigger and bigger as you reduce the term of the loan. Okay, the third page is a summary of the $175 million in projects by category, with an idea of what the breakdown would be between the general fund and the water and sewer fund, and what that annual payment would be. So as we approach decision time, which is going to be when we sit down with this list of projects and we agree we're going to do this one and we're not going to do this one, and we want to do that one, but we're going to have to wait. This is where this is coming from, is looking at how much can we borrow, What's it gonna cost us? What term are we gonna borrow it for? And what are we gonna have to do to make that possible? So, what have we said in the past? We have to grow to get out of this problem. How does that work? What's that mean? Well, we just said that there's two ways that we're going to control somewhat our revenue. On the general fund side, it's the digest and the millage rate. So if you're elected officials and you have a choice, do you want the digest to go up or do you want the millage rate to go up? Is that a hard question? I don't think so. We need the digest to go up, and not some. We need it to go up hundreds of millions of dollars. So if we have a $2 billion digest today, I think that we as a group should set as a goal to increase that by 50% in the short term, which would be, in the case of the TAD, maybe $300 million. In the case of a Southside TAD, maybe another 300 million or more. And then the projects that we have online right now for residential development that aren't in a TAD are about 500 million, $500 million. So from that list that we've circulated in the past where we had 5,000 housing units, and what we're talking about doing in the east side TAD and on 61, we could generate enough digest growth to actually increase our digest revenue 50%. Does that help? And the more we're successful at that goal, the less pressure there is on the millage rate. Otherwise, we're looking at a 6.25% rate going to 7 and 8 and higher in order to have the revenue we need to make these loan payments. Now, on the water and sewer side, similar kind of arithmetic. You have a choice. Do you want more customers or do you want to raise the rates? Is that a hard question? So,
No, but I would clarify the type of growth, commercial versus residential.
right.
Out of your own mouth with we don't need as many residents if we get more commercial. That's why things like the
And
Fuquay
industrial,
development.
right.
Yeah, and industrial. So that's like not no residents, but I don't want us to be overrun with population that we're not ready for.
Right. Agreed. So there's another distinction in the way that we grow, and that is a house is worth twice an apartment to the utility system. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The water volume that a family uses in a house, a typical house in Villa Rica, is going to generate about twice the net margin that an apartment unit will. So if we add housing units in the thousands, it's not straight arithmetic where you just take the total number of units and the contribution that they're going to make to the financials. The houses are worth twice what the apartments are worth. Now, when we get over to the commercial side, one of the benefits there is the property tax is disproportionately better with a commercial development than a residential development. But for most of those, they are not big contributors to the water and sewer system. So they're typically not going to be big water users. So you might take a fast food place, and it might be equivalent to 2.5 or 3 houses in water volume. But that's the arithmetic that we're going to be working with as we get into next year and we start talking about, do we do this or do we do that? Is we've got to look at what are the things that we spend money on that are going to facilitate quality of life improvements, that are going to facilitate additional economic development, versus maybe some other things that we've just talked about for a long time that we just want to do them, right? For instance, the quiet zones, right? Quiet zones are probably not initially going to be a big economic development boost, but having that crossing right there not honk anymore, I'd be pretty good. I might be willing to recommend we spend some money on that because it's a nuisance to me. But we got to make that kind of decision, and that's a hard decision when you don't have enough money to do everything you want to do. Okay, so we're trying to determine as a staff now what's going to happen in 23. The list that we made back in August of 21, the first time we put together the list of 5,200 housing units, is still hanging in there pretty solid. But several of the developers and engineers that we work with are telling us that they think the first 6 months of 23 we're going to see a slowdown, and then that things will pick back up in the summer. So that's what we're hearing, and it's pretty consistent. And I can't tell how much of that is prophetic or self-fulfilling. One of the good things that we're hearing is that even though D.R. Horton, who's a big national builder, has pulled out of parts of the country, they are still going to do Northwoods 2 and 3 in Mirror Lake. We have seen Pulte and Perrin pull out, so they're no longer involved in a project here, which is disappointing.
Which ones were they?
Pulte was going to build in Node 3, and Perrin was going to build in Fuquay. So they're gone. They pulled out. So we are seeing some retreat on the part of a couple of the big guys, but we're still having new guys show up too. So depending on their money source and how sensitive they are to the interest rates, some guys are still pursuing development here. We've got only a couple that are actually in construction. So other than Arbor Valley, which is on Anderson and Cleghorn, you don't have a lot of new residential development going on right now. South Harbor's built a few houses. Twin Oaks 2 has built a few, but it's a short list and you could name them on one hand. So it may be that the way that we budgeted for this year is going to turn out to be overly optimistic in the front half of the year, but maybe we catch up some of that in the summer. But because of that, I think we have to be careful to just randomly add stuff to our spending between now and summertime until we see exactly what this is going to do to us. So Sarah and I have been talking about getting together with y'all again for another retreat, and I need y'all to be talking with her so that we can work out a date. I know that there's some travel time scheduled already for a couple of y'all in the winter, but we need to start working on this detail of all these projects and which ones you really want to do and which ones you don't. So I just wanted you to start thinking about that and how we're going to approach the problem, what the economy might do to us, and how we're going to, I think, be able to still get started on a lot of this list of 175 million, even in our current situation. So, questions?
Any questions? Nope.
Yeah, the one you didn't mention, Avonmore now a dead issue, is it not?
I have been told by numerous people that it is in foreclosure, but I haven't talked to the owner, so I haven't heard that firsthand.
It's not official.
Well,
What was that referring
I
to?
hadn't heard
missed
it firsthand, so I've heard it from others.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't think the slowdown is surprising. Don't you feel like we saw this coming months ago? The cost of things. It was already rumored that the Fed Reserve was going to raise the interest rates because they needed to slow down the spending because the inflation was out of control. And that's the only way they felt. And then they did it again. They've done it twice. Did they do a third? So, and as soon as the interest rates went up, you can go buy a house, and if you could have something that had a mortgage that was going to be, I don't know, let's say 1,000, and it could jump to 1,600, 1,700 and more. That's the difference. So that there's people that even had things being built that they had to back out of. So there's a lot. I mean, I think that was obvious that was happening.
Yep. Yeah, one opportunity that we've missed is when we got the Water First designation, it gave us access to some really cheap money that's gone.
Is it?
Yeah, it's up around 3% now. And it was like 13 basis points at one time.
I have to say the quiet zone, because I've talked to people who live right on the tracks, and years ago I did in a different city, and you do kind of get used to it. I go, how do you guys sleep there? We're just used to it. And we hear it down here, we'd almost miss it. But that is, fluff may not be the term,
Yeah,
but
it's a quality
that
of
is
life
not,
issue.
yeah, other than that, that's something you can definitely put off, over more pressing needs. Because I don't think it's cheap to get that. That's what I heard anyway. I think Cartersville has it, maybe some other places. But I imagine we'll be discussing all that in the retreat. So,
Councilwoman McCoy, Councilwoman Marshman, any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. Well, with that, I will call this meeting of council
What?
adjourned.
I make a motion to
Yes, we
adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Got ahead of myself. Sorry.